You're listening to Audiology. Support our work on Patreon and be sure to submit your requests for topics in the comments below. Cheikh Mokrani, also known by his full name El Hajj Mohammed El Mokrani, along with his brother Bou-Mezrag, whose full name is Ahmed Bou-Mezrag, belonged to the prestigious Eid Abbas dynasty. This dynasty, part of the Hafsids of Bijaya, was famous for ruling the Qala of Eid Abbas in the Bibans area and the Medjana region since the 1500s. Their father, El Hajj Ahmed El Mokrani, who passed away in 1853, struck up an alliance with the French during the 1830s. He played a key role by supporting the French in the Iron Gates expedition of 1839. As a result, he was appointed Khalifa of the Medjana, but under the close watch of the French authorities. However, this partnership soon turned into a form of subordination to the French. By 1845, a decree was issued that removed the Khalifa position in Medjana, leaving Mohammed, upon succeeding his father, with the lesser title of Bachaga, which means chief commander, but essentially turned him into part of the French-administered Bureau Arabs. During the tough times of 1867, Mohammed stepped in to personally guarantee significant loans requested by the authorities, showcasing his commitment during difficult periods. Let's dive into the story behind a significant revolt and the events leading up to it. Back in 1830, the French military took control of Algiers, marking the start of France's colonization of Algeria. They set up their own government across the country. Not long after this takeover, a resistance led by Abd al-Qadir emerged and continued until 1847. This resistance faced strict suppression by both the local French administrations and the government of France, affecting the people and their means of subsistence. The late 1860s were particularly harsh for the Algerian people. They endured drought, freezing winters, a cholera outbreak, and an earthquake between 1866 and 1868, which led to the death of more than 10% of the Kabyle population. By the end of the 1860s, Algeria was left exhausted, with its population severely impacted. In response to these events, on March 9, 1870, the French government shifted to a civilian regime in Algeria, which unfortunately favored the French colonizers even more. In 1870, as creditors demanded repayment, the French government defaulted on the loans, citing the Franco-Prussian War as a pretext, leaving individuals like Mohammed to fend for themselves by pawning their possessions. Marshal MacMahon, the governor-general at the time, opined on June 12, 1869, that the Kabyles will stay peaceful as long as they see no possibility of driving us out of their country. The country operated under the oversight of a governor-general and was largely classified as military territory during the French Second Republic era. This setup caused friction between French settlers and the military, with settlers pushing for the abolition of the military territory, believing it overly protected the native Algerians. On March 9, 1870, a significant change occurred when the Corps Legislatif abolished the military regime in Algeria. With the fall of Napoleon III and the rise of the Third French Republic, the handling of Algerian affairs transitioned to the new Justice Minister, Adolphe Rémiot, moving away from the Minister of War's jurisdiction. This period also saw a surge of anarchy within Algeria. The settlers, disillusioned with Napoleon III and leaning strongly Republican, used the political shift to advance their agendas against the military presence. Local governance and defense committees gained real power, leading to the enactment of the Crémieux Decree amidst this upheaval. Adding to the mix, on September 1, 1870, French army faced a setback with their defeat by the Prussian army in Sedan, losing the Alsace-Lorraine region. This loss instilled hope among the Algerians. The dissemination of news regarding France's military defeat spurred Algerian protests in public spaces, leading to the rise of people's committees in the south of Algeria, organizing for revolt. Let's explore the Mokrani Revolt in Algeria and what fueled it. The leaders in the Kabyle region were upset because colonial officials were reducing their power. At the same time, the general populace was unhappy about new rules set on March 9, 1870, which to them felt like they were losing control to colonial settlers. Their land was being taken, and they were losing their independence. Now, turning our attention to the Crémieux Decree from October 24, 1870, it granted French citizenship to Algerian Jews. Some argue this stirred discontent, though others think that's a stretch, and believe this notion gained traction among French anti-Semites only after the revolt. Additionally, the Paris Commune's uprising between March and May 1871, showing Parisians fighting for a society based on direct democracy and social equality, likely inspired Algerians to challenge French rule. In the months leading up to the rebellion, Kabyle villages were busy setting up their own local governments, or timine, despite French authorities banning them. These assemblies were important for managing community affairs, including setting social norms, and consisted of elected officials like a president and a treasurer, playing a key role in resisting French policies. The actual revolt showed its first signs when a group of the 3rd Regiment of Spahis, Muslim cavalry members in the French army in Africa, started a mutiny on January 20, 1871. They refused to be deployed to France, arguing they were only supposed to serve in Algeria. This rebellion kicked off in Mujibur, near Ksar Bukhari, and quickly spread to other areas by January 23, 1871, signaling a significant challenge to French colonial rule. In Ain Guitar, a significant event unfolded as hundreds of men deserted their posts and a few officers lost their lives. This incident held special importance for the Rezgui family, who were convinced that France, having recently been defeated by Prussia, was weak. They believed it was the perfect time for a widespread rebellion. Following their call to action, the Haninshas group killed 14 settlers in their region. From the 26th to the 28th of January, Souk Aras was under siege until a French military team arrived, quelled the rebellion, and sentenced 5 individuals to death. In another part of the tale, in March 1871, Mokrani stepped down from his role as Bakaga, though he was informed that such a resignation needed to be approved by the civilian authorities. In response, Mokrani addressed General Ogorod, the military leader in Sétif, with striking words. "You are aware of our disagreement. There's nothing new I can tell you except to reiterate that I refuse to serve the civil government. I am gearing up for conflict. It's time for each of us to arm ourselves." This communication underscored the tensions of the time, revealing a deep-seated readiness to confront the existing power structures. The Spahi mutiny flared up again after March 16, 1871, with Mokrani leading the charge. On that day, Mokrani and his force of 6,000 men attacked Borj Bou-Erarij. By April 8th, French troops had taken back control of the Mijana plain. On the very same day, Si Aziz, the son of the Rahmaniya order's leader, Cheikh El Haddad, called for a holy war in the market of Saduk. This proclamation led to 150,000 Kabyles, or people from the Kabyle region, joining the uprising. Initially, the revolt spread along the coastline, then pushed eastward through the mountains beyond the Mitidja plain and reached as far as Constantine. From there, it extended to the Belezma Mountains and eventually connected with other uprisings all the way to the Sahara Desert. The rebels made significant advances, notably capturing Lakdaria, formerly Palestro, which is 60 kilometers east of Algiers, on April 14th. By this time, around 250 tribes had joined the uprising, representing nearly a third of Algeria's total population. Despite being poorly armed and disorganized, about 100,000 mujahideen were engaging in random raids and attacks across the region. In simpler terms, the military enhanced their forces in the Army of Africa when Admiral de Gaydon assumed the role of Governor-General on March 29th. He succeeded Alexis Lambert and prepared 22,000 soldiers for action. As the rebels advanced from Palestro towards Algiers, they were stopped at Boudouaou, also known as Alma, on April 22nd. This halt was due to Colonel Alexander Fourchot, who was operating under General Orphis Léon Lalmon's command. On May 5th, in a significant clash at Oued Souflat, situated between Lakdaria, previously known as Palestro, and Boura, Mohamed El Mokrani, a principal rebel figure, was killed in combat against General Félix Gustave Saussier's forces. Then, on April 25th, the Governor-General declared a state of emergency, also referred to as a state of siege. In response, 20 French troop columns advanced towards Delis and Dra el Mizan to assert control. On July 13th, following the Battle of Acheridin, Cheikh El Haddad and his sons were apprehended. The revolt began to wane with the capture of Bou-Mezrag, Cheikh Mokrani's brother, on January 20th, 1872. This event marked a turning point in subduing the uprising. During the conflict, approximately 100 Europeans and many Algerian civilians lost their lives, with the exact number of Algerian casualties remaining unclear. Once the battles had ended, over 200 Kabyles, local Algerians from the Kabyle region, were detained, and some were sent far away to places like Cayenne and New Caledonia. There, they were referred to as the Algerians of the Pacific. On March 27, 1873, Bou-Mezrag Mokrani was sentenced to death in Constantine for his involvement. The Kabyle area was also imposed with a massive fine of 36 million francs. Additionally, 450,000 hectares of land were taken from the locals and handed over to new settlers. Many of these settlers were refugees from Alsace-Lorraine, looking for a new start, particularly around the Constantine region. The heavy fines and the land seizures forced numerous Kabyles to leave their homeland in search of new beginnings elsewhere. Following the end of the Cheikh Mokrani Rebellion, the captured Algerian rebel leaders were brought before the Assize Court of Algiers on December 27, 1872. They faced serious charges related to their roles in attacking French colonies, including murder, arson, and theft. This case stirred a lot of heated discussions due to its significance. Each of the defendants, who had all participated in the uprising without exception, faced multiple criminal charges. The court's prosecution team detailed the accusations against these key figures of the 1871 insurrection. Additionally, a comprehensive list of names was presented, including other rebel Algerian leaders and participants involved in the violent events at Alma and Palestro. After the hour-and-a-half reading of the charges, which thoroughly covered the so-called Palestro affair, the court's president instructed the jury. They were given notebooks with the names of the accused at the top of each page. The president emphasized the importance of individual examination and note-taking, given the lengthy nature of the debate ahead. In 1873, the leaders of the Mokrani Revolt, a significant Algerian resistance movement against French rule, faced harsh outcomes after their capture and trial. Some were executed, others were forced into labor, or deported and exiled far away to the Pacific, specifically to New Caledonia. On June 5, 1874, a group of 40 key figures from this Kabyle rebellion boarded the ship La Loi, setting sail for deportation to l'Île de Pin. This marked an effort by the French to suppress symbols of resistance. By May 18, 1874, these leaders joined a larger group of deportees on La Loire at the port of Brest. Under the command of Captain Adolphe Lucien Motez, the ship carried 50 Algerian exiles. They were joined by 280 convicts from French prisons, led by the religious leader Cheikh Bou-Mezrag. La Loire made a stop on June 7 at Ile d'Ay, where it took on a total of 700 passengers, including 40 women and an additional 320 French deportees. Departing on June 9 for Nouméa, New Caledonia, the ship made a journey of 133 days, including stops in Santa Cruz de Tenerife and Santa Catarina Island, finally arriving in Nouméa on October 16, 1874. The voyage saw approximately 5 deaths. After disembarking its passengers in Nouméa, La Loire returned to France on November 10, 1874. Out of the initial group of Algerian deportees, most were sentenced to simple deportation to l'Île de Pin, while one faced deportation to a fortified area. Of the 300 individuals in the convoy, 250 succumbed to scurvy shortly after arriving in New Caledonia, as stated by Roger Perronis. Additionally, Jean Allemagne, in his Memoirs of a Communard, recounted a deadly dysentery epidemic that decimated the deportees, necessitating mass burials that lasted from dawn until dusk. Despite the grim circumstances, official records from the Bagné of l'Île de Pins, meticulously maintained, only listed 28 deaths among the convicts from La Loire in the 6 months following their arrival, a figure reported by Louis-José Barbançon. This discrepancy highlights the tragic and often untold hardships faced by those deported during this period. Thanks for watching. Share your thoughts in the comments and subscribe for more content.